Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are here for our next session. This is going to be an excellent one. And actually, our speaker here, Dr. Angela Johnson, we've done a few episodes and sessions on a lot of different things lately, and it has always been an excellent time. So, thank you for everything that you are doing. And the session here today is going to be called NextGen 911 and Practical Implications for Management Preparing for the Mental Health Impact. Take it away, my friend.
Yes, thank you. It is always a pleasure. And I'm excited to be back here again. I had so much fun last year that I knew when five was announced, I was like, I have to be here. And I wanted to thank everybody for joining me and talking about this. So let's get started. I don't know about y'all, but I have really enjoyed the presentations. Okay, so a little bit about me. So I am a professor at the University of Mount Olive in North Carolina. I am a licensed professional counselor and clinical supervisor in Virginia, and I work specifically with first responders in trauma and EMDR. I am a CISM peer support member, as well as a crisis intervention instructor and consultant for a local police department. Recently, I am the newest instructor with the 911 Training Institute. So I hope to be having some courses here soon. But I think more importantly than anything I have ever done in my career is I was a dispatcher and night shift supervisor for 18 years with a primary PSAP. For me, the last 5 years I was on night shift. And that I think is when things really started for me. So, and I also wanted to introduce my fur babies since they have the holiday spirit. That's Samson and Solomon. So they say hellos with their little drool. So also, okay. Overview. What we're going to talk about today is what we already know. There's a lot of research that is out there, and talk a little bit about that. A little bit about dispatcher's own voice, some unexpected findings from a research study that I did, as well as NextGen 911 benefits, mental health impacts, and then management's role in this. So I do want to go back a little bit to my story. So I started in the late 90s, dispatcher. I'll go ahead and date myself. And I completely loved what I did. I loved being a dispatcher. It became a part of who I was. And I noticed about year 5, I started to change. And I wasn't sure why. Because in my agency at the time, it was still the old school mentality is you suck it up, it's just part of the job. You know, there's nothing wrong with you, you're fine. But I was like, no, there is something not right here. You know, I've never experienced anxiety before, and anxiety was getting really bad, as well as not sleeping, eating too much, feeling angry all the time, and didn't know why. Really just not wanting to be there. And then we had a director at the time. Somebody on day shift had complained about night shifts, so he sent every shift to do a year of nights. And I think at that point is when I realized that I did not have agency support. And also, I didn't have control over my own career because it was dependent on somebody's whim at the time. So I knew that I couldn't stay. No matter how much I loved it, wanted to do it, always thought that that's what I would do, I couldn't stay. So I started working with the crisis intervention team and getting involved in mental health. And that's where I really began to understand what was going on. Why I was sitting there playing my tape back 10 times just to try to figure out if I had the address right. You know, that anxiety, the hypervigilance, everything else that was going on. So I was like, okay, it's time to go. And then when I switched over to mental health, I had the opportunity to really process. And now I find myself being
Okay, hold on just a moment. I'm not sure what happened. Um, I'm trying to text her and call her as well. But can all of you see and hear me? Okay. All right. Angela, I don't know if you can hear me or see me, but can you refresh your screen? I'm not sure what happened. You started to pixelate there for a moment and then it just cut out. Oh man, the solar flares. That is going on right now, isn't it? I'd actually read about that. All right, I'm going to turn my camera off here for just a moment, okay? And I'm going to try to call her one more time. So hold everyone who's here, just hold on one moment.
It's not my internet this time. All right, so Ricardo had called me and said that we had an issue, so I was starting again. Okay. So I'm like, where did I even leave off at? That somehow I just disappeared and I don't know where. Hey, everybody. All right,
Holy shit! I don't know what
where am
happened.
I? All right, where am I?
So thank you all for we planned that. That was awesome. No, I'm just
Wasn't
playing.
that beautiful?
That just that holy moly. I want to say this really quick. Everybody watching and listening, I seriously, I shit you not, I have all of my speakers' information. I almost sent a welfare check
I
because I
know,
didn't know
right?
what happened.
Because I have my phone on silent because I was
Oh.
presenting. So I have all these missed calls.
I think I left a message too. Holy moly.
Oh my
Uh
goodness, that is
that's
hilarious.
that is
Did
awesome.
you
Okay.
text him too?
I think I did, and
Oh,
over on Circle and, like, everywhere. I think I even sent a carrier pigeon, so if it shows up, just tell him he's alright, he's not
I
needing
have some
anymore.
peanuts in the backyard he can
Okay,
pass.
that'll work. Alright, let's throw your, your presentation back up on screen.
That is
Uh,
hilarious. Can you see it?
not yet. It hasn't popped up yet.
It was
Did you
not my internet this
No, no,
time.
no, it wasn't your internet.
No.
It was just a glitch in the platform. It wasn't anything else.
Oh,
Um,
yes, Amber, I continued. I was almost halfway done before I
I know.
realized.
Holy moly. Okay. Yeah, down in the you'll just have to share it the way we shared it before.
Okay. That
Oh,
was
that is
funny.
hilarious.
That was not me.
Nope,
No,
not you
no.
at all.
Last time it was. This time, no.
See, but technically it wasn't your fault. It was because you were at work and they had the internet
That is
locked
true.
down. Yeah, so we had to do it a different way.
That is true. Last time it was different. Okay. All right, can y'all see? Oh,
It,
man, and then I
there it
said some
is.
good stuff, and then I don't remember the good
I'm
stuff I
so
said.
sorry. Oh man, I don't know. Good lord. Okay. Yeah, this is I think this is where it was. You were talking about what's the next slide from here?
Overview.
Yeah, you were going over the overview and I think you were just
Okay.
about done with the overview and I think cuz I was waiting for you to say about the polls and then it just it just went out.
All right. Let me just put my phone on vibrate just in case something happens.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn my. I'm not even gonna move my piece off of this. I'm just gonna turn my camera off and everything, and then when you tell me for the polls, I'll put the polls up there.
Okay.
All right,
I
go
know
for it.
it's technology, right? But I think it's just it's hilarious. So we have
Yes,
fun with
for
it.
sure.
All right. And everybody's great. They're all still here. So I'm excited. Okay. So my fur babies, I'll reintroduce them Samson and Solomon, ready for the holidays. Okay. So we are doing overview. Okay. Well, we already know a little bit about the dispatcher's own voice, some findings that came out of a study that I did. Some benefits of video to 911. Really talk about the mental health impacts and what can management do? What can we all do? All right, let's start. Poll. I have 3 separate polls, if you would be so kind. So the first one is, has your agency implemented video to 911? Second one, are there specific policies in place for after a traumatic call? And then, do you have concerns about what you may see? So it looks like majority of the agencies so far have not implemented video to 911. Couple have policies in place. That is really good to hear. Okay. And do you have concerns about what you may see? Yes, which is very valid concerns. Okay, so let's go over what we already know. So I think, and I'm not sure if y'all caught that or not, but I was talking about Doug's presentation earlier when he was talking about leadership. And for me, it kind of hit home because I wasn't the good leadership that he was talking about. I think I was one of those supervisors that I only wanted to be a supervisor at the time so I wouldn't have to answer the phone or work the radio. For one, I was that magnet that whenever something happened, it was me. And another one, after that time, I just knew I couldn't do it anymore. I was pretty much just waiting until I found my place and where I was going to go after dispatch. Right. So let's look at what we already know. So, existing research has documented the psychopathology of dispatchers and trauma, including PTSD and compassion fatigue. I know a lot of the speakers on the conference have talked about the mental health impacts affecting dispatchers. Also, what we know, research has stated that there is an inability to process emotions after traumatic calls due to staffing shortages. And especially now after the pandemic, it has gotten worse. Across the country, you hear about the critical staffing levels that are occurring in communication centers. And all of this can really have negative impacts on our mental health, not only mental health, but physical health as well. The repeated stress that dispatchers experience increases cortisol levels, including weight gain, heart related issues, and diabetes. And for me, when I was talking with dispatchers in my study, and even from my own experience in the radio room, is when does heart disease, cardiovascular issues, and diabetes become normalized as just part of the job? Another thing that we know, that severity of trauma symptoms is directly related to the years of service. In my agency, I was taking a look around at the individuals that I worked with, and I was looking at the senior dispatchers, and I realized I don't want to do that. I could not see myself being 60, 65, still working in a radio room because we were admin. We didn't have public safety benefits and the shortened retirement. Couldn't see myself doing that. Also, in my agency, it got to a point where they wouldn't even let the senior dispatchers train new employees for fear of what they would say to them. So, how is that supporting your personnel when you don't let those senior dispatchers participate in training? And you wonder why there is this hesitation or this lack of interest in the agency. Look how you're treating your people. Also, dispatchers are more likely than combat veterans to exhibit cognitive avoidance symptoms. So just think about that one. So here you are as you have a military veteran who has been out in the field facing possibly getting shot at, and you have a dispatcher that's answering the phone experiencing the trauma of others. And dispatchers are more likely to exhibit those avoidance symptoms related to PTSD. And then you have individuals that say, oh, dispatchers, all they do is answer the phone. Well, research says otherwise. So, research has also talked about intrusive thoughts, sleep disturbances, depression, and anxiety increases. Oh, Lori, that's, well, not necessarily. There is things that we can do for that. So with me, the sleep disturbances with the shift work, the night shift, the first day back on night shift, I would be up for 24 hours at a time because I could never nap. Anxiety, checking the tape when I would get a call, playing the tape back over and over again to try just to verify that I got the address right. Even though that I knew that I did the first time, I still found myself playing it back just to be sure, out of that fear that what if I send the units to the wrong address and something happens, and then my agency doesn't support me. Also, night shift, hey, it may be 6 o'clock in the morning for me, but it's my nighttime, right? So if I want to go to sleep, what's wrong with having a couple of drinks? And then that became like a daily occurrence. So their shift work has been directly related to the chronic fatigue, obesity, and negative health risks. Also, dispatchers, we have incorporated this emotion code coping, which came from the military, and increases our internalization with negative consequences. So when the phone rings and I get a traumatic call, I can't sit there and be emotional with the caller because then I cannot do my job. I won't be able to get the information that I need to get. So what do? I put all of my emotions in the little boxes in my brain and I keep them there and kind of like push everything down. Then I don't process it or deal with it later. And it's going to come out somehow. But most of the time, it does come out in a negative way. Also, with auditory witness, we know that being an auditory witness can have negative impact. So, what do we do as a dispatcher? We're trained to dispatch by the worst case scenario rule. That means when in doubt, send them out. So, we get a call, we create a picture of the scene in our mind of what it is. We don't get the closure of the call, so we're not exactly sure what happened. So, what we're left to process is the picture we created, regardless of how it actually looked in person. Because majority of the time, it's going to be 10 times worse than what it actually is. Because we're, creative individuals. Our brain does some amazing things. We also know that awareness can mitigate negative mental health consequences. If we know, if we feel we have control over our situation, then we are more likely to be able to process it in a healthy way. So, not all stress impacts us negatively. The little shot of adrenaline helps us get our job done. We get a pursuit on the radio. All of a sudden, all of our senses are in tune. We have like channel in our ear for on this other side. We can catch every conversation that is going on. So, inclusion and validation of thoughts and ideas increase compassion satisfaction. To know that your agency respects your ideas really helps to validate you as an employee and as an individual. And building resiliency lowers consequences of burnout and compassion fatigue. Increasing boundaries and self-care fosters self-empowerment. So for me, self-care, what are you talking about? I don't know what that was. Coworker and I would sit there and be like, yeah, what day are you on? I'm on day 34. High five each other as we're like dragging ourselves to the radio. When does that become a good thing? Working 34 days in a row without a day off. That is not healthy. And I don't know why at that time I thought that it was. But it was something that we did. That was the culture, the agency that we worked in. It was work, give everything of yourself to this department. Your team needs you. But my team, what happens if I can no longer function? What does that do for my team? Because I haven't taken care of myself. Boundaries. My agency would stretch those. I didn't have them for myself. We worked a hurricane. We were there for about 3 days. I couldn't sleep on the cots that they bought from the armory. I couldn't do it, so I slept in my car in 100-mile-an-hour winds. Just hope I didn't float away. Went home after the 3 days, still didn't have power, made a mistake in answering my phone, and I got ordered to come in. But that was the job, right? That's what we do. So, earlier this year, I completed a research study examining the lived experiences of dispatchers with compassion fatigue. So, there are some aspects that they talked about and that they thought were impacting them. So, we have the vivid imagery, the lack of closure from calls, being behind the scenes, not seen, not being included in having their input being included in the way policy was designed. Picking up the next call, not knowing what is going to be on the other end. It could be, what time is the parade? Or it could be, I just shot my husband. You never know. Plus shift work. Shift work has the consequences. Also, management agency. Dispatchers absolutely love what they do. Like for me, it became ingrained in who I was. That's why now I'm still finding myself coming back at every point that I can, not as a dispatcher anymore, but in other ways that I can help. They also feel that there is a lack of support from agency and management. If my agency was so toxic at the time, our directors did not have any public safety experience whatsoever and pretty much told us that we were a body in a seat. But we were not feeling very supportive at the time. Plus, staffing. Levels are critical now, but when I was a supervisor, we were supposed to have 15 on the floor. That is working every shift. I would be lucky, or any of the supervisors would be lucky if we had 6. I would beg my employees, I will give you an hour overtime if you just give up your break. And that was night after night. And that is tough. As management supervisor, you want to help your employees, but you feel like you're stuck in the middle with management not having that support. Also, there's that physical impact of the job, what we do, the weight gain, the inability to sleep, being physically exhausted. Again, cardiovascular issues, physical pain. You just start hurting for no particular reason because we're sitting for so long. And then you're working so much. And then I wanted to know why I can't stand up. Because, hey, 34 days without a day off continuously and stress headaches. Where do you feel your stress? Notice that I clench my jaw a lot when I'm stressed. So I would get headaches from it. Also, it's a traumatic calls. There is an impact on callers. The more we experience burnout and compassion fatigue and symptoms of PTSD, we are not showing up for our callers the way that we should. A lot of it is not one call. Some of it is. Some of it is cumulative. Become more tearful than normal. I'd sit there and bawl my eyes out on the way to work, saying, I can't do this anymore, and just sit in the parking lot and just cry. Also, there are calls that we find more traumatic than others. Some are with children and elderly. And then overall, just more emotional than normal. For me, it was a lot of anger. And for the dispatchers in the study, they agree it was just overall just more emotional. Then there's clinical symptoms. Thinking about the calls over and over again, taking them home with you, and it impacts our home life. We are a little bit more short with our spouse or our kids. And my poor husband, when I was a dispatcher, he'd be like, don't dispatch me, because it was short, to the point, give me the facts. That's all I want to talk about. Because that's what we do on the phone. Just give me the facts. Then you start getting that hypervigilance. You're going into a store, you're sitting with your back to the wall, not to the door. You know what everybody is wearing around you. Or you just ignore it, push it down, try to shove it in there as much as you can. It becomes emotionally draining and damaging. The dispatchers also talked about there's this stigma that is still there about saying, this call really sucked. and I don't know what to do with what I'm feeling, or even talking about mental health. You don't talk about it. You just ignore it. It's part of your job. You suck it up. There's a lack of peer support, debriefings, mental health support. They're saying that agencies, management, mental health clinicians, they don't understand what dispatchers do. Think it's a whole lot more than just answering a phone call. So, dispatchers, dispatchers, one of them said, I fell in love with the career helping people through their problems. Another one is I programmed myself to push it down and walk into the building knowing that someone's going to die and walk out like it's okay. It's not a big deal because that's what we do, right? And then about the stigma or talking about mental health. As soon as you admit to a little bit of weakness in the agency, it's like sharks in a tank of water. Beating the stigma is going to be the hardest thing ever, especially with the old school mentality of you don't seek mental health. So, a couple of the unexpected findings that I found in my study is that there is a fear of retaliation from dispatchers. They don't want the agencies to know, they don't want to talk about it because there's this fear that if I talk about I'm not doing okay, then somehow I will be seen as not fit to do my job, which is you've had a traumatic call. It sucks. Why is it wrong to say that it sucks? And I need to talk about it. So with the NextGen 911 video, there is a real fear of what they will see. We're dispatchers. We do a great job of creating a picture of the scene in our mind. And now we are going to see it in real time. So what does all this have to do with video to 911? So we know that all of this, substantiated by research, substantiated by dispatcher stories, is already occurring. It's already out there. So now we're adding video to 911 on top of it, when we haven't even taken care of what's already there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against upgrades, video to 911. Anything we can do to help citizens is great. You know, we have the ability to see and access details of the call in real time. It can absolutely assist with investigations. It can determine the severity of the event because how many times we get callers that will say something and they get there and it's like a scratch on the finger instead of the whole hand is gone. And also, it will allow us to provide reassurance to callers that maybe the voice would not do. There are some benefits, but implications for management. A lot of the time, our agencies are very reactive. We know video to 911 is coming. If you don't have it already, it will be there. So, and it's changing that and taking a proactive approach to the well-being of their employees, which agencies really have a potential to reduce the techno stress and traumatic effects of actually seeing it in person, in real time on video. NINA and APCO have guidelines, recommendations, standards. Even in 2013, they recommended agencies to include input from the frontline dispatchers when we were developing the text to 911 policies. Same thing with video. Talk to your employees. Also, ensure dispatchers are receiving appropriate training because remember, the research, what we already know is that feeling of lack of control, lack of training really increases those negative health effects. And dispatchers are really fearful of answering calls and bearing witness to crimes. I know that's not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for watching it in person. Also, we have a potential to impact, or the video has the impact to really increase those staffing levels, the critical staffing levels, because it's so recently here. I digress. I had a thought. But it's all on the news about, all the communication centers are short staffed, short staffed. Okay, well, what are we doing about it? Instead of just having it on the news, we're short staffed, short staffed. There are things that we can do, but we're just talking about it. Okay. So what can management do? Talking about supervisors, frontline supervisors. Sometimes I know, like with me, with my agency, I always felt like I was beating my head against the wall because the director and deputy director were just sitting there, not listening all the time. But for me as a supervisor, what could I do in this position? Ensure adequate training. Make sure that the dispatchers have the training, they know how to work the technology. Is it something new software that IT has installed? Do they know how to work it? Or do they feel comfortable with it? Because it takes a lot to get used to the video aspect. If you've ever done Zoom or conferences or trainings on Zoom and you get to see yourself in the video screen for the first few times, just make sure that there's adequate training, policies in place, and communicate them. We had SOPs in a book, but I couldn't tell you where they were, where the book was hidden. This was back when we had paper SOPs. I don't know where they were. I just know that you're trained by the person who trained you, and this is how we do it, and this is how we've always done it. But I don't know what we're actually supposed to be doing. That's written in the SOP. Just make sure that policies are in place. Everybody knows what they are or what they are. Normalize it, especially mental health. So I had a supervisor a couple weeks ago saying, well, I need to be strong for my employees. How am I supposed to show it? And I'm asking, I said, well, what is your definition of strength? Is it stronger to uphold that old thought process of sucking it up and not talking about it? Or is it stronger to say, God, that call really sucked? I'm not doing okay. Maybe I need to talk about it. So it's talking about mental health. And even if I have a call that's impacting me, it doesn't mean I can't do my job. It just means this call really sucked and I'm thinking about it a lot more than what I should be. Helping to change the culture, initiating peer support, getting mental health connections. A lot of therapists, a lot of agencies are now having that connection to mental health, either agencies or individual counselors that they can call on. Also, create stress reduction supports. There's a lot of apps, there's a lot of websites, there's a lot of individuals that have insight that can help. And this can be done if your agency doesn't have a lot of budget. These are very simple things to take into account that we can start to do. Action steps. Workplace mindfulness-based interventions have shown positive results with reducing anxiety, depression, and cortisol levels. I was reading the chat, talking about let's sit in the mud together from Emily. Okay, so there are things that we can do to help support the dispatchers that are working when we get ready to go to the NextGen video to 911. Also, just a thought. So, when are we as agencies, management, dispatchers, community going to be ready to acknowledge that we need to do more than talk about supporting dispatchers and really switch over to that proactive approach? We're already at critical staffing. Dispatchers are already hurting. They're already experiencing mental health crisis. When is it going to be time to switch from reactivity to being proactive? Thank you very much for allowing me to do this the second time. I appreciate everybody's patience. Ricardo, and there's my contact information. If anybody wanted to reach out, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not fancy. I don't have my own website or anything, but I am on LinkedIn. And there's a link to the research study too, if you wanted to read it.
Excellent. Well done.
The second, so the recording, is it going to be my original one that I just went off on, or is it going to be the second one?
So it continued recording the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So for those watching on replay, it's gonna be interesting. So here's the thing though, what I can do, actually, and I'll probably do this, it'll be probably on Friday. So I think what I'm going to do, one of the good things with this platform, is that I can download the video, and what I can do is I can edit it
Okay.
and take that piece out and then re-upload it. So then those who are watching afterwards, they'll get the whole session. And but I don't
That's
know. I
great.
mean, it's pretty hilarious. It's pretty funny.
It
to-
was funny. And especially if I said the good stuff in the one that's going to be rewritten, I'm like, oh no. Because I couldn't remember half the stuff I said the first time to say it the second time.
No, it was all good. And for those who are watching and listening and everything, please make sure to get a hold
Yes.
of Angela and everything, all the information that she has here, as well as so the study and stuff. What I can do, if you can send me the link and all, um, I'll add it to the community.
Okay.
So in the attendee feed, what I'll end up doing, so for all of you who are watching and listening right now, on the replay, the button won't be there, but right now, the button is there and it says join the WTM community. You can go join the community for free. And then in the attendee feed, there are each person has, or each speaker has a graphic. So underneath the graphic, I'll add those links there. And then up at the top, there are links as well, and I can send them to your website. So people can do that too. It is always a pleasure to have you on. And
It's always fun. I always love it.
yes,
Thank you very
all
much
of
for
it.
having me.
Yes, of course. All of this is excellent. And as everyone is saying in here, some great information for everybody to have. And oh, wait a minute. Oh,
Ricardo's
Chelsea
taking
was like, Ricardo is taking a nap. No, I was simply waiting. I was being respectful and waiting for her to finish, and then I was gonna bring my ugly mug back up on here. Oh, that's funny. You know, it's and I came back in right at the right moment too, because just a few minutes before you had finished, I told my 19-year-old to sit here a minute and just make sure nothing bad happens, and he just kind of looks at me and like, what am I supposed to do? Because I needed to put my contacts in because my glasses were messing up my eyes, so I put my contacts in. Anyway, either way, we're back here, and I think what I want to do as well with you, and to talk more about this stuff, is to have a discussion, kind of like a dispatchers roundtable style, but to do it over in the community, because I think there's about 200 people over there now, and it's just building really fast. So that would be, a focused group that's there of all of us,
Okay.
and we'd be able to do more stuff. So I look forward to having you. If you're interested, that would be
Oh,
great.
absolutely. You know I am.
All right, awesome. So, for everybody who is watching right now, thank you so much for your
Yes.
patience with everything that was going on, but also for everything that you do, and the information that Angela has here as well. So, for those, we've got another session that's coming up. It's going to be the session that's going to close everything out, and that's going to be with Lori Henriksen as well as Lily Peterson, and they're going to be doing a session called Realistic Wellness for Dispatchers. So we'll see you guys all in the next one.